Hello there, Maverick Currency traders. This is Rob Reinhold. This is the Currency Room. We have just closed up the books for February, so we'll be doing the accounting on Monday, payouts on Tuesday, and level advancements on Wednesday. So the second month is in the books. Let's go ahead and look forward to March. Right, before we jump into what happened this last week, let's talk about our trading summit. We have the registrations open. This is a Maverick Trading only event where you must be an active member of Maverick Trading to come to the event. Everyone should already have an email or two about this with a link where to go to register for it, where to get more information. One of the questions we've received a lot is, what is the topic? Well, the topic is going to be using AI to make you a better trader. We're going to be using large language models. We're going to show you how to effectively backtest, forward test, how to write algorithms, how to basically do everything you're doing a lot better. So very excited for this. It's something you should definitely come and check out. Right, this week we had a continued sell-off in equities. We had equities down pretty much the entire week, falling until right at the very end of the day on Friday, about 3 p.m., we actually got a pretty good rally off the bottom. And one of the things that actually created that rally was late on Friday. Again, the market is very, very worried about the Canada and Mexico tariffs. That's really the worry right now in the markets. And Mexico came out and said that they would be willing to put some tariffs on China in order to avoid the U.S. tariffs on them. One of the things that has happened since the tariffs went into place against China in 2018, China has done some things to try to get around the tariffs. First of all, they devalued their currency about 10%, which was about what the tariff was. And then they also started using intermediaries in Mexico and Canada to try to get around the U.S. customs. So this is something that is a moving target here. We may not see the Canada and Mexico tariffs hit. Maybe that's going to be the thing they do to avoid them, is they put up more tariffs against China in Mexico and Canada, but the market seems to really like it. But the deadline is March 4th, so we will see what happens. That is next Tuesday. And this last week, the cryptos got absolutely crushed. They got absolutely demolished, and we saw big moves down. I mean, Bitcoin was down like almost 20% for the week at one point at the low. So big moves in the crypto world. As far as economic news goes last week, we had Aussie CPI that was weaker than expected. That caused there to be more selling on the Aussie this week. I know on Tuesday I took a Euro Aussie long that turned out to be a really great trade for the week based on this news. Also, we had Canadian GDP was weaker than expected. And we had the US core PCE price index came in as expected, which is really what the market kind of wanted. Not good, not bad, but just as expected. Overall, it's again the same story here. We have rising inflation out of most countries. We have weakening growth out of most countries. That's one of the reasons why we're seeing some pressure on equity markets and on risk assets. So last week, we saw another risk-off move. We saw the S&P down 1%. We saw the world markets down 1%. Take a look at crypto. Now again, this is at the end of the week. This was about a 6 or 7% rally on Friday. So big moves in crypto. Gold retreated from an all-time high. Oil was basically flat. Last week I spent a lot of time talking about this S&P chart, and I talked about how we're really just in a range, and until the S&P broke 5840 or 5850, what it had to do is it had to break, rebound, retest, and fail. That is the signal where all get bearish. I said until it goes there, I cannot be bearish. And you can see we got a nice little bounce here on Friday right off of support. What does this mean? It means we're still sideways. Could we get another couple days rally? Sure. But I think the next little point here is going to be right at that 50-period moving average, right around 6,000 on the S&P is likely to be a little bit of short-term resistance. If we hit that, fall down, then I think we're still going to be a little bit more bearish. But ultimately, this was a total risk-off move for the week. This is classic risk-off. The yen was looking really good until Thursday, Friday. The dollar wasn't looking so great until Thursday, Friday. So the dollar took over as the best currency late in the week when the yen was the best currency the first of the week. The Aussie Kiwi continued to fall. Last week, I actually said that they looked a little sold out, and I didn't think they were going to fall much more, but I said they were still great shorts because, again, the yen and the Swiss franc looked so great on the long side. Turned out they definitely did have more selling. And then the pound was actually the surprise for me this week. I had the pound at a 0. That actually ended up being a pretty nice little pop. And we'll take a look at that chart. Cryptos that were selling across the board, except check out Litecoin. Litecoin held in really nice. Litecoin is still at a +2. So if there's anyone out there looking to buy crypto, Litecoin looks to be the best performing at the moment. So let's go ahead and take a look at these markets and give it some actual scores. We already looked at the S&P. Here is the 10-year U.S. government bond, and you can see the floor dropped out of it. Once we broke through 440, the floor dropped out, and our next level down here is at 4.15. We're almost there. If the market can bounce there, we should see a nice little bounce in equities, a nice little bounce in risk assets. If it keeps falling, then that tells you that people are running for safety, and that means risk assets are going to continue to be bought, which means that risky assets are going to continue to be sold. And again, Bitcoin and crypto are considered a risky asset. As you can see here, we've been moving down for quite a while here over the last couple months in the crypto markets. Next week, we have one central bank, the euro. The euro comes out on Thursday, and they're expected to cut by a quarter basis points. Could it be half? Sure, maybe, but they don't seem like they're in a real rush to be aggressively cutting here. But they are very clear that they are going to be in a cutting cycle. So we're going to see some movement out of the euro most likely. This is the first week of the month, which means we get US ISM, and then we get ISM services on Wednesday. We are going to get the Swiss CPI on Wednesday. Take a look at that number, 0.5%. That's a little bit higher than most of the countries here compared to last month when they actually had some deflation. So we have Swiss CPI, and then on Friday we have both the US and we have the Canadian employment reports. So really big news. I expect that Friday report to be a nice little mover, probably more so on the CAD than the US dollar, because I think a lot of people are looking at this report. We all know there's been a lot of layoffs lately in the federal government. Those aren't going to show up in this month. That's the February month. They're going to be showing up in the March numbers. So I think a lot of people are going to look through the US number this week. So central banks, we had the ECB on Thursday. We do have Chairman Powell speak on Friday. But overall, I think this is going to be a decent week. I don't think it's going to be a great week of trading. I think it's going to be a decent week of trading. Let's go look at each currency, give it a score, and find out where we're going to hunt for the week. Let's take a look first at Bitcoin. Bitcoin completely broke this little base. You can see once it broke hard. Okay, we did get a bounce on Friday, but that doesn't make it a buy. It does not make it a buy whatsoever. So there's nothing in this chart as a trend trader telling you it's a buy. Now, if you are a reversal trader, there's still nothing in this chart to tell you a reversal is here yet. It's just way too early. Ethereum, or let's take a look at Bitcoin Cash. Bitcoin Cash, same thing here. We didn't break as hard. We rebounded. This actually has more signs that there is actually a reversal here. We actually have a 4-hour chart that is now turned into an uptrend. There's more reasons to take a look at Bitcoin Cash than Bitcoin for sure. Ethereum looks the worst. It broke, and it broke hard. It was down 14, 15% for the week. Just an atrocious week. There is, again, no reason whatsoever to try to catch this falling knife. None whatsoever. However, we come over here to Litecoin, and we see some pretty decent price action. Again, we're not seeing real bullish price action, but it's by far the most bullish price action. Pulled back to the 50-day moving average, gave us a little hammer right there, and it actually bounced on Tuesday, and it was strong on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So if you're looking to buy any crypto, Litecoin is going to be the one you want to take a look at. It's at least showing the most relative strength. Doesn't mean it's guaranteed to be the best performer next week, but what it's saying is it's been the best in the past. And we know that past performance actually does show what future performance is likely to be. Moving on to Forex. The dollar, I was actually wrong, and I said the dollar looked like a good short last week. And you can see for the first couple days it was slightly up, and then the last 2 days had a big bounce. That takes us into the middle of the moving averages. That gives it a score of 0 to me. So for me, that is a no touch. So for me, dollar, it's got a ton of velocity at the moment, but for me, it's a no touch at a 0 on the trend score. The yen was my favorite currency last week, and you can see for the first couple days, it was a really nice trade. On Friday, we got a little bit of a shooting star here. I expect there to be some backing and filling from the yen. Once that happens, I'm definitely looking to get back on the long side again for yen. Swiss franc last week was looking so-so in the middle, but you can see we're now trading above some moving averages. It's still a 0 for me. I'm still not all that interested here in Swiss franc. And speaking of not that interested, also euro did the exact same thing. It popped up and just pinned itself right between two moving averages. That means for me, that is a no trade. Last week, that's exactly where the pound was. The pound was in my no trade area. It had just been going sideways, pinned between moving averages. Take a look at this move. Nice move to the upside. I don't love the upper shadows here, telling me that it's running, but it's pulling back quite a bit. So if anything, I want to get in off of pullbacks, not off of high bases. That's just telling me, hey, you want to get on pullbacks, not bases. We now are at a +2 on a trend score that tells me, okay, pound is now tradable for me where it wasn't last week. Canadian dollar last week was kind of in that middle area, and you can see it broke down, and we're now clearly trending here. I do like the fact that we have long upper shadows here as it's having a bounce. Again, had a big fall, had a big bounce, but every bounce is kind of losing steam. Losing steam is telling me that once this bounce is over, it's likely going to take another leg lower. So I do like CAD on the short side. Come over here to Aussie. Aussie is falling apart. We're getting a little bit of bouncing action at this point. So we'll probably need to see a couple days before I'm interested to short the Aussie again. And really the Kiwi is the same chart. Not as strong of bouncing action on Friday. So any little move here, I do like the Kiwi better than the Aussie for a short this week. So when we stack them all up, the trend scores aren't all that attractive. We got CAD, Aussie, Kiwi negatively trending. We got yen and pound trending on the upside. Okay, so that's really where we're looking to pair up. We're looking to pair up pound CAD long, pound Kiwi, pound Aussie, and then all those currencies against yen. Here's where the velocity score is right now. Here's what's moving right here, right now. And you can see all of those currencies are right here in the middle. Every single one except for Aussie Kiwi. Here's the problem. I want to go long pound. I want to go long yen. It's not showing me positive momentum at the moment here. So there's nothing here I want to trade. Dollar is the only thing that's really moving on velocity score. But for me, the dollar was a 0 on trend score, so it's going to just simply be ignored. So I'm going to have to look for some potential trades later in the week since nothing is really coming up in my system to say, hey, it's ready to go right here, right now. The first question I have is, which is a better trade, pound or yen to the long side? Well, you know how we answer that question? We put that pairing into a chart, and you can see that over the past 4 or 5 days, there's been virtually no difference between pound and yen. They're pretty much moving the same. So we're not getting a good indication there. Let's take a look at what is the best between Aussie Kiwi. And you can see the same thing here. Over the past 5 days, there's virtually been no difference in the Aussie and Kiwi whatsoever. On a 4-hour chart, you can make a case, okay, the Aussie is a little bit stronger than the Kiwi lately. Sorry, let's jump back to pound yen. Pound yen is still, there's no call on what's better between pound and yen. All right, so we said the Kiwi was a little bit better on the short side. Let's go ahead and pair that up against the CAD. And you can see the Kiwi is falling against the CAD. We're getting a little bounce here, but it looks like the Kiwi is the weakest currency out there. So let's take our strongest currency, which I'm just going to call the pound, pair that up against Kiwi, and again, this is going to be where we're hunting here. Taking a look at a daily chart, we've got a nice breakout, we got a nice run. This has momentum. It has cleared out of some resistance. This one is just, the question is, where's the entry point? It's going the right direction. We just have to pick it up at the right point. We come here on a 4-hour chart, you can see we've had a big run. We're starting to get these topping candles here. We expect there to be a couple of days down. Moving into the 223.50 to 224 area. So right in here, we can get a pullback into that area. That to me is going to be a place where I start to look. But right here, it looks like we're going to be getting that pullback. Again, coming down into that, below that 224 area, that's where I want to start to set some alerts for the week. Let's also take a look at something like CAD Yen. Let's take a look at it on a daily chart. You can see it is also broken below some support lines. So we're clearly broken by some support. I like these long upper shadows, telling me whenever it tries to bounce, it loses the bounce. So all I want to do is I want to be in these bounces. You see, we've had a nice little bounce here on a 4-hour chart. This one to me looks okay. I would love to see it break below parabolic SAR, a couple other things before I get short. But this looks a little bit closer to being triggered than pound Kiwi. So again, check this out next week. Maybe it's ready, maybe it's not. Again, I'm not going to be trading on Sunday next week. There's only a few Sundays I trade where there's lots of volatility. This is not likely to be one of them. So I'm going to be taking a look at this on the Monday session. To wrap this up, I think the big question is the market reversing? So we had the big rally on late Friday. Is that going to continue into Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and on? If the answer is yes, then all of a sudden, all of the risk-off things that are working, yen, Swiss franc, probably no longer work all that well. I think you want to be taking a look at the pound if we get a bounce next week. I think the pound is a good thing to take a look at. And pairing that against, again, you're probably going to see a bounce in Aussie Kiwi if we get a risk-on move. So maybe CAD, maybe pound CAD might be something to focus on as well. If we get selling next week, if that isn't a bounce and we just get continued selling, then yen. It's yen all day long, and you just want to pair it up against literally anything. Anything but the Swiss franc probably, or the dollar. Just look and see what's weak, and that's what you want to pair it up with. Everyone have a great weekend. Thanks for joining me. Goodbye, everyone.